Hello there, folks and cowpokes. Rhyming is an underrated skill. So probably won't be talking as much this stream because my throat has been killing me today, but I got some vitamin C water to chase that down. But yeah, this is one of my favorite roguelite deck builders, Monster Train. I've got the DLC for it, of course. So yeah, I'd like to show off more of it for y'all and let you see a bit more of why this is such a good deck builder. The menu music is not particularly exciting, it's just obviously ambience. But we'll be diving into this right now. Hello there, Lady Bunnerkins. I came here from your hidden and unknown video. I have a quick question if you would indulge me. Do you write professionally? Hold on a second. I think the music in the game's a bit too loud. Hi. So, yes, I actually write comics, for my studio, We Are Legion. All of my art on the channel is art I commissioned for the, imprint I do with, my, colleagues and such like. I'm not sure when you commented that because I was kind of looking at the game, but yeah, absolutely, I do write. I wouldn't say necessarily like I do it for a living as such, because I do have a day job, but I do write comics and for commercial purposes. Yeah. Oh, if you wouldn't mind, would you mind letting me know why you're asking that, though? Is it just because you thought my writing was good in it, or...? Yeah. Or not necessarily my writing, but... just my editing, I guess. Is a bit more germane to, that video. That's good. That's good. Amazing. I suspected you must be a writer. Comic books make sense. I had suspected maybe you had written academically, but in a comic book I could see how you might adopt such a beautiful terseness. Thank you. I would say, in terms of, you know, what I do with the studio, it is, it's a lot of trying to make things which people can kind of, people can kind of see themselves in on like a in like an empathetic kind of light. Obviously, we have some stories which are not, you know, like the Spider-Man-esque, you know, every person kind of character where, you know, they're affable, young, they enjoy their superpowers. Not everything is like that in our studio, but you do have characters who are meant to be kind of like, you know, likable, and who are from, you know, or have, you know, whether it be, you know, sexuality, romanticism, gender experiences where they're marginalized. Also race, of course, and general culture and whatnot. But yes, I was enthralled by your comments on that video. Your vocabulary is impressive, and it felt earned. You don't see that very often. Thank you. A lot of... So I don't write academically, but I do... I have, you know, always been someone who kind of learns by kind of just reading and kind of building from what people who before me have kind of done. I'm very very influenced by a lot of you know, the how do I put it? The game sound effects are distracting me a little bit, so I'll turn that down on my end. But essentially, I'm inspired a lot by, you know, the how do I put it? a lot of the, you know, modern kind of queer stories, you know, like, I've talked before about how much I love the She-Ra show, Dead End Paranormal Park, which I'm mad got cancelled. I'm also very inspired by Nimona, which is by the showrunner of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. I think my last message got an error for some reason. I have a talent for getting auto-modded. It's a gift, really. I'm not familiar with YouTube live streaming, but I'll paste it here again, just in case. It's the way you nail all the right tones so concisely that mesmerized me. I hadn't considered it, but you make a good point. Empathy would be a huge part of that, wouldn't it? Yeah, we have some projects which I can't really talk about right now because they haven't been announced yet, and I don't want to, you know, essentially give away the ghost, you know, on what we will be having as, like, our initial series and whatnot. Yeah, I would say, you know, when you're trying to do something like superheroes, which obviously a lot of people are hostile to the very thought of in comics, because it's like, ugh, do we need more superhero stories? You know, you got Marvel, DC, Valiant, Catalyst, Prime, you have H1, you've got all of the, you know, Watchmen, Secret Identities, you know, just kind of like the standalone stories where they have superheroes in them, but they may not necessarily be about them. Plutona is another really good example. I really like Plutona. It's by Jeff Lemire and Emmy Fox, I think. Sorry if I'm going off on a tangent, I just remembered the comic Plutona, and I haven't talked about that in years. Emmy Lennox is the artist on it. She brings a lot of really awesome style to that. But yeah, like, I think it's very important to kind of nail down those kinds of fundamentals. And, because, again, people are going to be hostile to it from the jump. No worries about the secret products. To be honest, the nature of your products is not terribly interesting to me, but the way you string a sentence is fantastic. If comics make you happy, then that is great, but academia would be blessed to have you. Thank you. I personally... I personally would say that, how do I put it? I'm trying to think off of the cuff here. But, yeah, it's... I'm not sure if you're familiar with, a lot of the shit that's been happening with the comics industry as of late, but, or at least for the past couple of years, but, we kind of had our own Gamergate, essentially. Comicsgate, as you might imagine, is the name of that, absolute void of just pure hate. And one thing that I think would be really great would be to kind of provide not like a direct counter, like a cognizant, or not cognizant, a conscious counter to it, but more like, I guess you could say kind of like a spiritual counter to it. Like, like, basically just kind of doing a lot of things which would be, you know, doing things that would kind of get us in hot water with them, but we think we still need to do because it's like, that's what we need to make, you know, stories which have a, you know, like a good impact to them, you know, like emotionally resident. I almost said resident there. Emotionally resonant, you know, just the kinds of stuff that, like, yeah, you can obviously find in comics nowadays, and I'm not going to be like the things were better or whatever in my day kind of thing, but more so, like, a lot of that stuff is kind of difficult to find, you know, because, you know, the comic skaters, they're clowns. They've been laughed out of the industry pretty badly. Like, whenever one of them crops up in Marvel or DC, they get yeeted into the void. But also, I'm probably gonna pause playing the game because it's taking a bit of my attention from chatting. But it is something to where it's kind of like, how do you make something which is, you know, going to represent people in a space which can definitely be hostile to that kind of, you know, like, I'm already, you know, a queer dude in, you know, on a channel which mostly focuses on video games, so I get a lot of shit. You know, like, when I said in the comments on that video that I was aromantic, and you have to be kind of, you know, cognizant of, like, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the jokes and insults towards incels can, I phrased it as being like splash damage towards aromantic and asexual people. Some you know, Scuzzball came in the comments and was like, touch grass to me. Like they were responding to me, and they said touch grass, and I'm like, okay, first of all, banned from the comments here, because I don't need to put up with people being douchebags for no reason. But also, it was kind of like, a lot of people do not take, you know, identities that they don't even know of very seriously. In comics, I think, can be a place where, you know, yes, a lot of people will write it off out of hand just because they're comics or they're disposable and whatnot. And oh, they're just about superheroes, which, side note, has never been true. Literally never. The first mega popular comics were romance books. Superheroes kind of took off in a large way after romance and horror comics got the boot with the Comics Code Authority, because that basically became the only thing you could do, and not get, you know, censored for it. It was also super homophobic, of course, which, of course. So, you know, a lot of people are gonna initially kind of just write it off, but you also have a lot of people who, because of people writing it off, it can kind of give like an outsider kind of niche, I guess you could say, like a safe space for a lot of people. Like, you wouldn't know it if you only looked at Marvel, DC, you know, characters. Oh yeah, I can definitely expand on the thought that not necessarily incel commentary, but like when people aren't very careful with it, when it's like the maidenless meme, for instance, or saying like, oh, you get no, you know, insert whatever kind of, you know, uh, you know, noun someone is using to refer to women. Oh, you're a virgin, or blah 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 blah. Like, a lot of asexual people, for instance, obviously, not all people are the same. It's a spectrum, but a lot of people on the aro or ace spectrums are sex repulsed. Personally, I do not consider myself to be sex repulsed, but I'm not interested in it. So it's like when people say stuff like, "Oh, you get no," or "Oh, you're maidenless" and whatnot. It is so annoying to have people, you know, um, you know, saying stuff which is referring to incels, but they're not being careful about it, and they're phrasing it in ways which are like it's wrong because they're not interested, or because they can't have sex with people. Which the problem with incels is not that they don't have sex with people. That's never been the problem. It has always been that they feel entitled to women's bodies, and and that they're obviously toxic and violent about that. One thing that I always like to remind people of is that incel wasn't always like that. It was actually coined by a bisexual woman back in the 90s. And it wasn't like involuntary, as in, like, I'm involuntary celibate. It wasn't like that kind of whiny tone to it. It was more like, just a statement of facts, like, yes, I would like to be celibate, but I'm not. Like, it was kind of more objective. And, she wasn't, like, toxic about it. She was just giving people a space to kind of talk about and, express their feelings about not being able to find partnership. Or whether that be sexual or romantic partnership. And it got bastardized, obviously, in the intervening years, to where people took it and they were like, no, I am entitled to this, but I can't because, such and such. It is... and the thing is she actually has had many, or at least from what I was reading from, her interviews she did back when incel was kind of popping off in, the, when it became part of the general lexicon, and people started paying more and more attention to inceldom, you had quite a few reputable, outlets who were doing interviews with her, because she's the one who coined the term. Obviously, makes sense to, speak with her about it. She, was saying, like, yeah, I'm not... I wouldn't even say that I'm an incel by the initial definition of it, because she is celibate since then. Which... pointers to anyone who may be going down the incel pipeline. The reason why she was able to find that kind of partnership is she didn't feel all entitled and shit to people dating her, men or women, or people of any other gender, because again, she, at least at that time, was, from those interviews, obviously things may have changed in the intervening time, and she's a private citizen, so I wouldn't know. I'm not friends with her or anything, but she was identifying as bisexual. So it was like very interesting to see, because she's the one who came up with the term but she's kind of moved past needing that for herself. Obviously, it's good to have that. I still think that there should be that there should be spaces for people who are of the original meaning of the word, to find a place where they can talk about without getting mocked for it. But a lot of the times you still see people where they think they're making fun of incels, but they're actually just making fun of people who either are non-toxic and still look like feeling kind of lonely, romantically or sexually. It's mocking people who are potentially on the ARO or ACE spectrums. Thank you. Thank you for the very kind comments here. By the way, I have been looking at them, but I'm trying not to go on too many, tangents when I have something that I'm like, I think I need to say this, because if people are paying attention to the channel right now, I do want to drop some truth bombs, that people may need to hear. But it's a lot of the time it's like, oh, you're maidenless. I fixate on that one just because it is very popular with gaming spaces. But and it's like, yeah, I don't have a maiden, quote unquote, but it's because I don't want to. So the thing is that commentary doesn't exist in a vacuum, and the things that people are saying about one person or group of people is not necessarily it's not just going to be read by those people. That's why it's not okay to mock fat people who are shitheads, because you're gonna end up being read by someone who is fat or overweight or anything like that, and they're gonna be like, they have a right to feel invalidated. Same kind of thing, if people read something that is phrased in a way which is not careful, and that is something which is deleterious to their ability to feel safe in a community, I think that needs to be reined in. And it's not like it's that difficult to do. It's just not saying stuff which is kind of mocking people for being for not having a partner. It's instead being very concise and incisive with how people are focusing in on the incel phenomenon. An incel is someone, again, by the modern understanding of it, not the initial original understanding, which was, again, not toxic until it was bastardized. It is something where we kind of need, especially considering aromantic and ace people, a lot of the times we don't have that kind of voice. Like, how many people know about aromanticism? A lot of aromantic people don't even know it's a term, right? But mocking an abhorrent person for being fat is different, I think, than what you're talking about, or at least I think it's more obvious that this insult is not a character attack. It can be, though, especially if it... Because if you look even in my comments on that video, a lot of people were saying stuff like, oh, he's a virgin. Okay, what's the problem with being a virgin? In itself. It's being, like... it's like it's not focusing on it's not focusing on the problem, and which is also the problem with focusing so much on the virgin, that kind of shit. That's not the problem with them. It's not that they're virgins. It's perfectly fine and valid to be virgin, a virginal, virgin, whatever we want to say. The problem is being an entitled little shithead and saying, give me sex, give me romantic partnership. It's not and has never been, oh, you don't slay, and when people will say that kind of shit, like, I read it, it's like, okay, like, I don't need to feel like I'm very confident about who I am. I do not hide the fact that I'm aromantic anywhere. I will happily say as much. In any context where I can bring it up and where it is, at least kind of relevant to the topic or anything like that. Like, obviously I'm not just like, hey, I'm aro in a conversation about something completely different, but it's it's still invalidating to have people kind of focusing on something which I am. Like, I've never had sex before, and I don't really intend to in the foreseeable future. And that's my choice. I can do that. This is a problem that a lot of the ace community talks about, is like the obsession with sex in culture. Like, that can be kind of harmful. Let me read some of your comments here, though. You're right, of course, but I don't think these people do it consciously. I think they do it because they lack the ability to articulate the repulsion they are actually experiencing. You're right. The thing, though, is that I understand that. That's why when I was responding to Shagger, I think, was the name of the commenter there who I responded to there, in that, when I said the splash damage comment, I wasn't saying, that he was being malicious or anything like it, or they were being malicious. I don't know what, pronouns they prefer. But, I wasn't saying, oh, you're being malicious. I said, hey, we kind of have to be a little careful with this, because you can have a knock-on effect. The things that we say can have a knock-on effect that we're not conscious of. Here's something that you may not have thought of. Not going to say like the whole do better thing, which I think is just patronizing and useless, but more so like maybe, consider being cognizant of this, like, potential area that you're not necessarily thinking of here. Because, again, especially with the Arrow and Ace communities, like, a lot of the times people just ignore that we exist, and I will take any opportunity I can to, and backtracking a second, even within the LGBT plus community, people pretend that Arrow and Ace people are not valid. Like, the most aphobic shit I've gotten, at least being online, have been from other people who identify as being queer, or at least in queer spaces, whether they be outsiders like allies and whatnot. Like, a lot of the times it's from people who think that they're doing like something good, but they're not. Because a lot of aphobia is invisible. It's not it's not something malicious that people do, but it is a learned behavior with the society that we have, where it's like, of course you want to have sex with people, of course you want to have romantic relations with people, otherwise you're just not a reasonable or normal quote-unquote person, and it's just kind of like very annoying. I, for one, am very passionate about animal welfare, and because I'm passionate about it, my words completely fail me, and I can feel with every fiber of my being that this person just needs a beat down. I know that is not true, and I know violence doesn't illustrate my point, but I'm unable to articulate my feelings, so I lash out, or at least intellectually feel seduced to do so. I know what you're talking about. I think it is important to ask ourselves if we are being more critical of our allies than our enemies. As it stands, I think it is fair to say that receiving, and then it kind of gets cut off there. The thing is that I think saying, hey, please be more cognizant of, or at least here's something that you could be cognizant of that you may not be thinking of, I don't think that that is something which is, browbeating or anything like that. I think it's just, I think that's a critique which is fair. I thought it was very even-keeled, and I think that it's not an individual problem, it is a systematic structural problem, where people kind of have societally been, convinced that, hey, we need to, focus on, people being degenerate, quote, and shit like that, where it's, acting outside of the window of how societally we can act sexually and romantically. And I don't think that it's something which, is going to cause much strife as long as people, if people don't listen about it, it can be kind of hurt, because what I was saying before is that, Aro and Ace people have shit visibility, and if in this kind of, in this environment where people who are Aro, Ace, anywhere on either of those spectrums, or, Demi, or anything like that, a lot of the times it feels a lot more brutal to have people kind of uncritically saying shit which is hurtful, because it's like we don't even exist, I'll go back to what you were saying. As it stands, I think it's fair to say that receiving criticism is difficult and often misinterpreted. And regardless of how well you can process it, it is a process. And it is a process we are putting on allies when the work is better placed across the table. I mean, I can't change that, Nate. I also feel the need to fall on that sword. I have this ongoing debate with my friend about systemic change, and my response to him has always been one step at a time. And by believing that, I place the onus on myself to be taking those steps. And your responses to those comments are exactly what I profess to believe. Yeah, the thing, though, is also just, on my end, it feels like it, I may be the first Aro person that someone actually sees in or at least openly Aero person that someone sees and kind of talks to. So it feels like, you know, if I'm going to be saying anything that I'm uncomfortable, if I think something is uncomfortable to me, that I should be vocalizing that so that people can kind of, you know, have that understanding that, you know, a lot of people, you know, I don't speak for everyone in the Aero or Ace community because I'm not Ace, obviously, and people are different. People have lots of different feelings and whatnot, and can are absolutely free to, you know, not be offended or to even use shit like maidenless or anything like that. But it's kind of like, because when you have people who are so used to things being one way, and then, like, over time, if people kind of get used to aromanticism, asexuality, and they have this expectation that jokes about, you know, that guy's a virgin or whatever, that those are okay in spaces, which they may not really be, that they can make people feel uncomfortable. I think it's incumbent on me to kind of explain so that people know, okay, this is why I need to be cognizant of these things. I don't think it's... Let me see here. Sperm Whale wants to see some gaming content, so I'm gonna stop devouring your time here. But thank you for the chat. I very much enjoyed your perspectives. Thank you. And thank you for, you know, having your own thoughts and everything and conveying them and not just, you know, deferring or anything like that. I do appreciate that, of course. But yeah, I'll hop back into this. I'm glad to, you know, have, you know, just parts where I chat and whatnot. Let me see. That's a good one to have P0 cost. But yeah, I like the idea that people can kind of have, you know, stimulating conversations here instead of, you know, just let's all agree with what Matthew says or whatever, because I do not appreciate idol worship. Like, I'm not here to get unilaterally praised and just have everyone being like, well, Matthew said this, you know? So that's how it's gonna be or whatever. I'm being quiet here, of course, so I'll probably mute myself and then chime in whenever anyone says something or whenever I have to say. Absolutely, I can be counted on to honor the spirit of a discussion, debate, not argument. I do love a good debate, and it ain't a debate if everyone agrees with me. Good luck on the gaming. Talk to you later. Hit me up on Discord. I'd love to continue this talk. Yeah, I don't know your Discord tag. Mine, I will drop in the chat. Let's see here. 2711. That's mine if you wanna hop in at any point. Or hop into, you know, a discussion, I guess. Poor phrasing. Let's see. Yeah. This is a good setup here. I get the stealth and then kill that stuff, so that's good. And no, I don't need to place anything else right now. So I think that's a pretty good slice of Monster Train again. Uh, Definitely will be playing more of it, of course, over time, but you know, this is again one of my favorites in the roguelite deck building genre. Uh, the art's great, the gameplay is just, it's really exacting in terms of the difficulty, but it's one of those ones where I have fun even when I'm fucking up. So cheers, thanks to anyone who stopped by. Thanks again for Lady Bonerkins for having the really interesting conversation. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and cheers.